Hey, it's Colin Meeks. Welcome to another edition of the Financial Advocate Podcast. And I call this podcast Beware of the Year-End To-Do List. And the reason I do that is not to say that there's not anything that you should be considering doing in your financial plan at the end of the year, but it is the season where on social media and sometimes on the radio and TV, you'll hear these interviews and the people say, well, here's this list of 15 or 20 things that you should do for your financial plan by the end of the year. And what I thought I would do is go through, and it's not to say that they're not good ideas, but for most people, for most of our clients, is we do year-round financial planning, meaning that we're not waiting for some random day in the calendar like December 1st or end of the year to do that type of planning. So I wanted to go through some of those things that I've seen that are advised for people to do before the end of the year, and sort of take a step back and say, is this really something for you? Because if there's a list of say 10 to 15 things, chances are 12 of them aren't for you, and maybe 3 of them are. Or maybe the ratios are a little bit different, but there's really not that many things to do if you're doing year-round financial planning that you need to rush in and do at the end of the year. And so as a resource for this podcast, I also have a checklist, and it's called What Issues Should I Consider Before the End of the Year? And we'll attach that to the podcast. If you don't see it or you can't get it, feel free to get in touch with our office. It's a list of 15 to 20 things, and you can just go down and it'll tell you, hey, is this for me? Is this for me? Is this for me? And it breaks it down into asset issues and tax planning issues and cash flow, insurance, estate planning, and then just some other random miscellaneous stuff. So I'm going to pick 1 or 2 from each of those categories, and just because in our practice we don't see a whole lot of, we're not rushing around at the end of the year trying to do year-end things because we're doing them all year long. But I'll pick 1 or 2 from each category because these are the big ones that we spend some time on. The first thing would be from an asset standpoint and required minimum distributions. We have a lot of clients that are retired, and for those of you who don't know what a required minimum distribution is once you hit a certain age, 73 years old right now, I think it is, you have to pull money out of your retirement accounts. And basically it's the IRS saying, hey, we've never gotten any tax money on this, and we want our tax money now. So they have a table, and it's something that you have to manage. So if you turn that age this year, or if you inherited an IRA, there are some rules there. So we're always looking at required minimum distributions as one of those things. And we don't necessarily like to wait till the end of the year. We sort of flipped the script and said, I know a lot of my advisor friends, they rush around at the end of the year in like December, and they're worried about, because if you don't pull out an RMD, there are penalties involved, and they're rushing around, trying to get the paperwork in and making sure everything's set up. And we try to do that at the beginning of the year or throughout the year to make sure that we are not doing that. As an alternative to that, from a tax planning standpoint, if you are taking required minimum distributions and you don't need that money and you have charitable intention, there is a way where you can avoid paying the tax on your required minimum distribution if you give that money directly to charity. And that is called a qualified charitable distribution. And that came out, I forget how long ago, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, but we were starting to see a lot of our clients do that now. And that's basically just a form that says, don't send the money to me, send it to this charity. And what it does is it takes the money off of your tax return. So it's not for everybody. Some people live off their required minimum distribution, but if you are getting the money and you're giving money to charity anyway, it's just a way to save on taxes. So that's a couple things there. From a tax planning standpoint, we look at tax returns in pretty good detail. And what I mean is for our clients, we will run a tax report and make sure that, are we getting close to a new tax bracket? And we want to be mindful of any withdrawals that we're taking from things that are going to throw off a tax, and make sure that, hey, going into the next tax bracket is not the end of the world, but for some of our clients that are on Medicare and there's this thing called IRMA charge, where if you bump up into the next tax bracket, it makes your Medicare premiums higher So paying a little bit more tax is not always the end all be all, but if it kicks you into another tax bracket where it's also making your health insurance more expensive, we want to be very mindful of that. So we want to pay very special attention to tax brackets, and we look at that throughout the year. It's not, it's not one of these year-end things, but if we're meeting with a client is at the year-end, we will look at last year's tax return, look at this year's projected tax return, and try to make some calculations there. Next thing would be cash flow issues. And this is just very simple. Throughout the year, did you have any difference in cash flow? Was there a debt that was paid off? Was there something that you were paying on a car, or you were paying on a property, or paying on any other kind of loan that freed up $500 to $1,000 a month? And we all know what happens if you don't that money stays in your checking account. It just sort of disappears. So if we, in our planning software, if we note that, hey, this debt is going to be paid off in June, and we're doing a review, we're trying to figure out, hey, where do you want that extra money to go? If you want to spend it, that's fine. But was there another goal that we could maybe put it towards to make it work a little bit harder for us? So there's some cash flow issues. Insurance-wise, we do a lot of life insurance reviews. And as somebody that started selling life insurance back in 1994, I've got a really good understanding of what products are out there, what rates are looking like now, how underwriting is. It's looking way different. And what we're finding is as people get older, they typically don't have the same insurance needs. They don't have the larger debts. They don't have the obligations if something were to happen to them from a life insurance standpoint, that they need this money to send their kids to college. They need to do all these different things that when they were younger, they needed it. So we're finding that maybe we can adjust the insurance as they get older, or maybe in some cases just even get rid of it. So looking at life insurance is not always a bad idea. People just sort of seize up when they hear the word life insurance because they don't they don't want to talk about it. They don't want somebody to try to sell them something else. They just want to let it go. And a lot of times these older policies that people have aren't always financially solvent, meaning that they, at some point they might blow up on them. So we want to know that sooner rather than later. So life insurance is a biggie. Estate planning, it's always just a good idea. Check up on your legal documents. A lot of times we deal with people that are divorced, married for the second time, kids, stepkids, blended families, all this stuff, and then they're working on legal documents that are, in a previous lifetime. And we don't do any legal documents. We're not, we don't have any lawyers on staff. We refer that out, but we can at least look at them and say, okay, is this the person that you really want as your power of attorney or your executor of your will? Are the beneficiaries up to date? We want to make sure your ex-wife or your ex-husband from 20 years ago is not going to get your IRA when you pass away if that's not what you want. We want to make sure everything is just updated and exactly as you want it. So that can be a year-end thing, but it can also be, let's look at it all throughout the year. Those are the main ones. I mean, and I would not get caught up into the year-end thing. Again, if you are doing your own financial planning, technology and software makes this wonderful. You can just set little reminders in your Google Calendar or whatever calendar software you use to, hey, this is the time we should do this, and this is the time we should do that. In our planning software, we have a calendar that we use with people. When we first meet with somebody, we say, okay, how often do you want to meet? And to review things, and we'll put those things into a calendar. We do as much as we can, as quickly as we can, without overwhelming people. But we also don't want to, make it a full-blown, full-time job from the get-go to get everything done. It's okay to stretch things out as long as you've got systems in place to keep track of it. So do some year-end financial checkup and planning with your advisor. If we're your advisor, we've already probably pretty much done it. If you're doing it on your own and you want some help, feel free to get in touch with me. You can go to the website at marylandfinancialadvocates.com. There's a little button there to schedule a phone call with me. I'm more than happy to take 15 minutes to chat with you to see if anything that I do can help you out. And all of our costs and fees and everything are right there on the website, so there's no surprises there. And year-end is a great time to enjoy time with family and friends and everybody that you love. and it's not fun if you're sitting there worried about these financial things that you should do. So if you want to take that off your plate, we're more than happy to do it for you. Have a great holiday season, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.